Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern on this rather cold, wintry day to talk about the political discourse in the United States and whether or not Donald Trump has actually gotten to the point of permanently changing that discourse. Now, maybe if we can start just in a holistic sense, I guess it wasn't that long ago when we had normal political discourse. The president at that time, attempted to, he portrayed a more thoughtful, elegant sort of presentation of how to go about being president, and also doing it within what would be considered the established norms of how you were the president. You could say certain things, you didn't say certain things in certain ways, you just didn't rattle off at the mouth, you didn't tweet whatever was on your brain. That was the way you conducted yourself, and that's how, regardless of party affiliation, that's how they all behaved in a way, I guess, except for maybe the odd ones that were a bit more extreme, etc. But they were considered more fringe-like. Now with Trump being there, and he's only been there for 5 months, but I guess we had a prelude for 18 months up until then, up to the election, that we've gotten to a stage where, every single day you have things being said that are just would never have passed muster by anyone. Not only Trump saying it, but now him influencing others, I guess, to behave in the same way, the culture of the political discourse that he's setting. And even just as a place to start with, this article that, we're referring to from the Washington Post, which is, he concentrates on Bernie Sanders' tweets. But if I take one, and we were talking about this before we got on, on the 7th of March, Sanders is saying, President Trump cannot continue to lie. It diminishes the office of the president and our standing in the world. And the writer of this article says, our natural inclination, if we're aligned with Bernie Sanders, is to cheer, and that's probably what you see. You see, these people getting out in the streets and going, yeah, let's go Bernie. They'll do that sort of thing. No, I don't know if there's many people actually taking the time to take a step back and go, do you actually realize what he just said? And not saying that it's wrong or he's not saying the truth, but he's calling the president a liar in a public forum, and there will probably be another 100 of people or politicians doing exactly the same thing before you even get to the broader community and organizations also saying the same thing. And it's now just par for the course. Happens every single day. I don't recall, apart from maybe the right or far right calling Obama a liar, or, he was out to get them or take their, entitlements away or whatever, that it had become so mainstream, that it had gotten to this point.
Nah, well, this is a completely new world, and I think the level of debate is taking us somewhere completely new. I guess it makes it very easy for, groups into machine learning to take all that diatribe and analyse it, and maybe they'll perfect diatribe somewhere down the track or something, or be able to block it online. Or I just think the continual thrust of opinion, as polarised as it is what's detrimental. So Trump is a polarising figure. He may or may not be lying. I think everyone knows what they feel about that. I think it's probably pretty likely he's careless with the truth. And, everyone arcs up and yells back at him, and I think that creates a perfect smokescreen for him. And it diminishes the office of president, and it diminishes the level of political discourse. So, yep, it's time for, a brave new world.
All right, well, what about that then? The idea that I guess we've got two schools of thought here, and I know where your thinking is here, is that have we now crossed that line? Have we gone past the point of no return? Is the next person, assuming we get past Trump, gonna go back to the way it was before, where everything was done in a certain way, diplomacy was done in a certain way, or the president's rhetoric was done in a certain way? Or is it going to be just, if Trump got away with it, I'm going to do it because that works with the public, and we're just going to go ahead with that?
Well, I might take one step backwards here. I don't want to compare Bernie Sanders directly to Trump in any way, shape, or form, but both of them represent an alternative voice. And by alternative voice, I mean one that's not been heard in the political spectrum for any time in the last maybe 5 decades. So if Bernie had won the Democratic pre-selection, he perhaps would have won. Now, he certainly would have been a very different president to Trump, but his dialogue and his discourse, his political discourse, is full of rhetoric, and it's very polarizing. So if we just take that as a starting point, I think that means that politics has changed markedly in the last 10 years. And on that alone, that means that whoever comes next cannot be like anyone of the past. My guess is, though, and you know this well, but in America now, they've probably pretty much turned this into a popularity contest. I can't see anyone that doesn't own a social media platform or, have their own fragrance. As anyone who doesn't do either of those things probably will not ever win president again.
Yeah, that's an incredible state of affairs, really. I mean, I can understand it and see it. Just one point on, say, the comparison or between someone like Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. I don't know if, there would be a lot of people, he is polarizing, like you say, but I'm not sure if the same sort of standard applies, in the sense that I think what you see is what you get with him. Like, that is the reason he's polarizing. So he's going out and saying what he thinks.
Not a very good advertisement there either.
No.
But anyway.
So he's going out and saying exactly what he thinks should happen. Yeah. Whereas Trump is going out to say things saying he thinks this is what should happen, but actually he doesn't really care at all. I think that's a big difference between the two. And if there's any sort of positive notion going forward, is that you'd probably want a Sanders type as opposed to a Trump type going forward.
Oh, well, you would think so, yes, only because the Sanders type is probably a little bit more reliable. But having said that, and I'm a political cynic anyway, but, I doubt there are very many genuinely squeaky clean politicians out there. And by that, I even mean those that vote with the party ahead of their own principle. So, I think maybe Sanders is one of those, and I think maybe Trump's actually one of those. The means or their vehicle for getting there are completely different. But, these guys are so much about themselves and their own beliefs and their own self-beliefs. I think that's, something that's resonating maybe with the much younger members of the community today. And there was some evidence of that in all the polling for both Sanders and Trump. So, are we looking at that shift now? Are the 20-somethings, that are starting to vote now, looking for highly emotive, highly persuasive, discourse without necessarily understanding the political machinations that need to occur to actually realise, a lot of those promises? I wonder.
Yeah. Well, I wonder is actually something that could apply to so many things in this particular debate. And maybe if we can just finish up on this point, that, Trump is setting a tone that is obviously very different to what's gone on in the past, and is arguably changed it to the point of no return. What about this idea that he keeps pushing, he's not going to change, he's going to just keep doing it regardless of whether people are with him or not. But the fact that the current block of Republicans that are controlling everything, they're not. There doesn't seem to be any indication that they're going to jump ship from him, and that's, I think, something that's quite different to what the norm has been. Because even if they're within the own party, if they start any previous candidate or person in the role who would have crossed the line, they would have pulled him up on it at some point. But it seems like they're willing to do what they're willing to let everything slide. For what? They're not even really getting any of what they want through, or are they getting that through? Could this have it could have a fairly devastating effect on them politically, when the next set of elections comes around?
Well, this is precisely my point. I mean, when it comes to self-interest, there are those that spout all sorts of party lines and believe in completely different things, and you can only guess that they might not be, appear to be complicit in Trump's rule, but they're certainly tacitly supporting it, and that can only be expressed as self-interest. I would imagine that if anything bad goes down, they'll be the first to walk away, or either to pick up the pieces and build a little tower for themselves to stand it upon. But that's just Machiavellian politics right there.
And so much for drain the swamp, huh?
Oh God! Well, yeah, drained one swamp, filled another.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Got rid of the green slime and put in some brown slime. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. So don't forget our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get all of our links and content there, and you can subscribe to all our content. We'd really appreciate that. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.